And here we are. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's Andrew Turner, founder and host of the G&T Sessions podcast. And today we have an amazing guest who's not in London, but he's in somewhere that's usually very beautiful and warm and hot and sunny. But apparently it's not today. Welcome, Amos. How are you?
Thank you, Andrew, for having me. I'm excited. I'm doing well, except for the heavy rain outside. Everything is sunny inside. That's definitely true.
That's good. That's good. And you join us from where?
And Tel Aviv, Israel.
Okay, cool. Silicon Beach.
Silicon Beach. Never heard that. I've heard Silicon Wadi, but never heard that one. That's great.
Well, no. Obviously, I work in Silicon Valley, so it's like I've done for quite a while. But my definition of Tel Aviv is Silicon Beach because it's always kind of like so much innovation comes out of Israel and Tel Aviv. It's like incredible.
Yeah,
the number of patents and stuff. I think it's number one in the world, isn't it? I think it's more than. Is it more patents come out of Israel or Tel Aviv than Silicon Valley? Is that right? I think there's some ridiculous stat I think that I read before about that.
Yeah, if you look at like unicorns per capita, then we're the highest in the world. And if our ethos here, we have like a lot of conversations around it. We call ourselves like the startup nation, and we're not the scale-up nation, and we're not the enterprise nation. We're not the big tech nation, but we're the startup nation. We're really good at building companies here with minimal resources and kind of like against the odds, trying to serve markets that are global from somewhere that is kind of like dislocated from a geopolitical standpoint. And I think that in the AI world, that just gets amplified because smaller teams can just get massive impact these days. So I think that Israel is really, really well poised for this revolution that we're heading into, where small is the new big.
Yeah, you're going to get me going on some kind of like 300 kind of Spartan kind of story, but I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. No, it's interesting because I've obviously worked in and out of technology over the last couple of decades, and I've worked with Amdocs quite a lot in telecoms, which is obviously a very famous Israeli headquarter company, and obviously people like Apple Tools and people like that. So there's obviously some really really good, highly valuable companies that have come out of that region. So it's that's obviously Swan AI is going to be the next one. You see, obviously it's like boom.
Exactly. And maybe one of the most famous ones.
Exactly.
We'll see about that.
Obviously, after coming on this show, you'll be even more famous, obviously.
Exactly. And my life is going to change, I'm sure.
You have all those inbounds. So one of the things, obviously, we do with the G&T session, we've been running this show for quite a few years, and we've had a lot of guests on. And obviously, we get guests from, founders and authors and entrepreneurs and CEOs of larger tech companies. We've also had some rock stars on actually as well. We had a couple of rock stars on over the time, so we had quite an eclectic mix of people.
Beautiful.
But it's about growth and technology. It's not about gin and tonic. I was actually on a train last night coming back from London, and people were drinking gin and tonic. I said, no, it's not about gin and tonic. It's about growth and technology with gifted and talented people. And obviously here we are with Amos, you see. So it kind of gets all the ticks, yeah. So
amazing. And if you want to talk, Andrew, about gin and tonic and some rock stars, I'm down for that as well.
Here we go. Actually, I knew I shouldn't have mentioned that. So, I mean, just to kick it off, I suppose one of the questions I was going to ask you about was this kind of thing about, and I've been, doing a bit of research on what you're doing with your business. And I suppose you kind of like putting some quite spicy content out there, really challenging the thing about that I suppose you started at the beginning was about you can do a lot more with a lot less people, and you can use automation. And one thing that I saw particularly was very, very, I mean, maybe you can tell me the real story behind these stats, but I think it went from 0 to 7 figures in weeks. How do you do that? What was the part that how did that work? That's brilliant.
I think we'll start from the beginning, from the why and from the background. I think it's more important to understand that before. It's not my first rodeo, so I've built and scaled. Sorry about that. So it's not my first rodeo. I've built and scaled 2 startups. Before that, both of them were in the B2B customer communication space. And they were based on the old growth at all costs unicorn playbook, what you would call, where you raise a ton of money before you even know what you're going to sell and who you're going to sell it to. And then you get to 30, 40 people before you even got to your first $1 million in revenue. And then every round becomes a race to increase your total addressable market and your vision rather than the real metrics and the real fundamentals of the business. And sooner or later, you understand that you've built a company that stands on a very sick foundation. And it's very hard to get from there to like a generational massive company that is healthy and can scale significantly. And what I've came to realize in my third company is that the playbook for building businesses from the ground up, for building startups, hasn't been really changed in the last 15 years. We're doing the same thing over and over and over. And the only thing that really had changed is that we just need more funding. That's it. So the startups that are better than the old ones are ones that can just get $10 million instead of one in the seed round. Then they get $30 million in the A instead of 5.
Amos, didn't you know that's the badge of honor? That's what it is.
Exactly.
It's like, when you're in a Scouts, you get these different badges for things. You get, I've got a seed badge, I've got a pre-seed badge, seed badge, Series A, yeah, Series Z.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the wrong badge to wear, Andrew. And what happened is that the playbook started prioritizing valuation inflation over value creation over time, because that's the game. Basically, that's how you win. And together with this notion of AI agents that really came to market in the last 18 months, 24 months, we realized that it's time to rewrite the playbook of how you scale a business. And so Swan was founded from that specific premise of a journey to really discover the architecture of a business that is built from the ground up towards human AI collaboration rather than human to human coordination, a business that could scale with intelligence, not with headcount. And a business
scale
that is designed...
scale on facts and evidence rather than gut feeling. I mean, you've got qual and quant, but you basically very quant driven. Is that what you're saying?
So it's part of it. And when you're working with AI, you got to be data driven, because AI is just as good as the context that it gets, basically.
Yeah.
But I would say that it's more about the emphasis that instead of just throwing capital and bodies at every problem that you have in scaling, you try to apply intelligence to it, whether it's human intelligence or AI intelligence working in tandem to solve it.
Okay.
And what you get basically is it's not about automation, really. It's more about a journey to discover the 100x version of each employee in the team. So an autonomous business, that's how we call this model, basically, that we're trying to reinvent. Autonomous business is a business where it thrives to put every employee in their zone of genius, that area where their skills and passion intersect to create disproportionate value for the company. And what the business thrives is to just put them there as much time as they can, as much of a percentage of the tasks that they're doing should be inside that. AI should automate the mundane, what's outside of that zone of genius, and should amplify what's within that zone of genius, so that every person on the team could really turn into that 100x seller, 100x product, 100x engineer.
Right.
And so the reason why we scaled so fast with such a small team is because that's what we're actually building at Swan internally. It's a system that can take each employee and try to grow it to a 100x version of itself.
So it's a productivity play.
Yes, it is a productivity play. It's an organizational culture change from what we call the old model was cog culture, where every employee is just a cog in the wheel, and the system is really designed to scale the business. Okay, so we're trying to scale the business and the goals of the business, and we don't care what Andrew does well. If Andrew is in charge of sales and we're doing cold calls, then Andrew should just do cold calls all day. We don't care if we're good at it or not. If it's not good, we're going to fire Andrew. Maybe Andrew is the best talent we've ever interacted with, but he's going to do cold calls all day long, and if he cannot do that, we're going to fire him, right? And that's
because you're evaluating that cog. that specific
Exactly.
person in that cog
should
yeah.
do
Yeah.
exactly
Yeah.
that cog should do cold calls, and we have managerial layers above that, and processes and bureaucracies and approvals that are all designed to control these
this
cogs.
like superstructure.
Exactly. And that's kind of like was the old model, and it was necessary evil just because we had to coordinate a lot of humans interacting with each other, and machines couldn't really take over that coordination. And so we had to invent all these constraints.
There's lots of handoffs, isn't there? And there's also what I would say is, depending on the individual or the leader, then there's also fear as well about actually, what do we do with machines? What do we do with humans? How do you actually crack that kind of comeback?
Exactly. Yeah, and
interesting.
That was kind of like that's the old model that is getting deprecated as we speak, and the new model, which we call the autonomous business, it's all about autonomy of employees and agents that are working together. Both of them have maximum autonomy. The autonomous business flips the script. Instead of scaling the business, it scales its employees. Okay. And when the system is focused on scaling its employees, that's when you can create massive scale with a small team. So you get talented people, and you're just focused on how do I scale them? How do I give them everything they need? And if the system is really wired towards that in an iterative process, it always thrives to just scales them as much as they can, as much as they want, as much as they need, and wherever they're good at, then that is the place where you can really get to massive scale with a small team. And finally, what happened here is that AI could unlock that. Why? Because instead of all that approval layers and managerial layers, etc., what happens is that each employee can build their own organization for them of AI agents supporting them in their tasks, in their day-to-day, understanding kind of like managers in that sense, but of AI agents of what should they automate, what should they keep me in the loop, where am I important here, and where can I delegate it to? And they find themselves in an iterative process only in the places that they really need to be and they want to be.
So it's a bit like playing to your strengths and like addressing your edges.
And your passion. It's also important, Andrew, because I feel like if you're familiar with it, there's like this matrix of the zone of genius metrics, where you have passion and skills. And they say that most of people, they find themselves in the zone of excellence, where they have high skills but low passion for what they're doing. But the zone of genius, where you can really create disproportionate value, is where you find that intersection of high passion and high skills. And the reason why, it's because you have an intrinsic motivation to get better at what you're doing if you're passionate about it. It's not just because of money. It's not just because of career or ego or just satisfying your boss. If you love, you find the art of cold calling interesting, then just, spend your time there. You could be much better than any other
the art
cold
of objection handling.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely.
Interesting. No, that's great. I mean, so basically what you're saying is that the trigger event for you was actually observing or being you were co-founder in these previous businesses that got a lot of capital, but then you actually got the balance wrong, and it could cause some kind of issues as you scaled. Or you weren't able to get hyperbolic scale because you had some kind of like roadblocks and obstacles. Is that fair?
I think that the incentives behind the model are oriented towards valuation inflation, not value creation. And I think that as a founder, it's inevitable that you're really focused about satisfying your investors, and the playbook that you're following is really pushing you towards just scaling the wrong things in the company, basically. And I feel like the playbook of how you build a business was fundamentally wrong, because it was optimized towards valuation inflation, not value creation. And the autonomous business flips that from a playbook that is designed to scale the valuation to a playbook that is really designed to scale its employees, which will ultimately be the right way to scale your valuation over a long period of time.
Yeah, I was just thinking, obviously people like Mark Roberge, from HubSpot. You obviously have to call him Mark. There's a new model. You just got to get with the program. Oh, is it Aaron? Aaron's the other guy into the ex-Salesforce guy. I don't know if you know him, the impossible guy.
No, I'm not familiar with him actually.
I'll send you a link to it. Yeah, there's a good book there. If you said that the kind of this swan journey, that you've kind of talked quite a lot about, obviously on other podcasts. What was the hardest moment in that?
Ooh, there was a lot of hard moments, actually.
I thought it would be all easy. You'd be on the deck chair. You'd be like sat there like this,
Yeah, so I think maybe the hardest decision was that initially we put a constraint where it's just the three founders. Me, I'm in charge of growth, revenue, customers. Then we have Ido, who's kind of leading product and AI agents internally. And then we have Neve, our CTO, who's really kind of R&D, the CTO. And it was just the three co-founders. And we said, look, to really innovate here on the business model, we'll have to say to ourselves that we cannot hire people to solve our problems. We got to be able to turn each one into their 100x version.
Right.
And basically, we got all we need. We have growth, product, and R&D. That's all you really need to scale a business at the early days. And so we decided that we're going to put a constraint and we're not going to hire anyone. And so all that growth, we did like 0 to 200 customers in less than 6 months. And we did that just the three of us, and serving 200 businesses. It's not like prosumers or consumers when they pay you $14. These were like real contracts with real businesses. And to do that was extremely hard, and it took us to the limit. But what it enabled us to do is to really observe what does it really mean to scale each person on the team to that scale, and where do we have to build AI agents to support that? Because it cannot be just fluff, just to say we're building AI agents because we will just break. We have to manage that scale. And so what we did is it forced us to really think and prioritize about what agents should we build, how should we manage them, and how should we work alongside them.
Yeah, I suppose. No, thank you for explaining that, because I think that's the thing is. So what you're saying is that you had to keep it really tight, a bit like a rock band. You're like lead singer, and you've got like a drummer, yeah, and you've got like a bass player or a lead guitarist, and you can't hire any more musicians. You've really got to grind it out to get to work it out. Is that right? And keep the rhythm.
I would say that is 200% correct, Andrew. And the reason why it's 200%, not 100%, is because we used that exact metaphor internally.
Oh, did you really?
I was the lead, wow. We did. I was the lead singer. Neve was on the guitar, and Ido was on the drums. So yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. So who's your favorite singer? Lead singer? Who would you model yourself on?
Eddie Vedder.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam. I think if we're taking that analogy to the business world, trying to really extend it in a serious way, I would say that Eddie Vedder, unfortunately, had a lot of friends in the grunge scene in the 90s, where almost all of them passed away.
Exactly.
Or committed suicide, things like Chris Cornell and Linkin Park, lead singer. We have Nirvana, Kurt Cobain, etc. And Eddie Vedder was consistent. He managed to pull through around 40 years of innovation, of music innovation, and he really went for that race, going to the long term. And I think I can relate to that. We're not building a business that could just gain short wins, and we'll be here for the short term. We're building something that would last and would change the industry and how we think about scale.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm a slightly different age group to you, so I would have probably Ozzy Osbourne or David Lee Roth as David Lee's singer, and then I would have Eddie Van Halen or Jimmy Page on guitar, and then I would have probably Cozy Powell on drums. So you probably don't know. So I don't know if you know who Cozy Powell is, but he's a very good drummer. God rest his soul. Anyway, we digress. No, thanks for sharing that. So, I mean, you're obviously quite a charismatic personality, and obviously you've got, you're quite visible out there with some stuff you've done. Because obviously you're breaking the mold, yeah. What do people get wrong about Amos?
That's a great question, Andrew. So it's true that when you're building a brand for like a personal brand, and I think that's important. Every CEO should care about their personal brand. And I think we're going towards a world where every employee should care about their personal brand eventually on social media and every opportunity that they have. And the cool thing about building a personal brand is that you build it kind of like you build your company brand, and you can decide how you want to build it, right? So it doesn't have to be identical to your perception of yourself or your closest one's perception of yourself. And I built my personal brand, part of it because I wanted to rise above the noise and to gain massive distribution with it. So I built it as a very contrarian, controversial persona. And I think a lot of my posts, which gained a lot of success, are posts where I go to the extreme with these characteristics. And so I think that people have a perception that I'm a very controversial person. But if you look at the real quote unquote, the real me in my day to day, I'm a very conformist person, and I don't like to engage in in arguments with my closest people, and I try to just be there in the norm. But I think that I think it's an interesting from a personal brand building perspective. I realized that if I will add this notion of contrarian, controversial persona to myself, then that will actually help me build a better persona and will reach more people and will generate more demand and will eventually build more trust with more people for my company.
Yeah, well, I suppose you're also kind of embracing your alter ego, aren't you, your lead singer? Yeah.
Yeah, you got to do it. Exactly.
You're going to be out there. So just a little quick one about this thing you mentioned about autonomous business. You've got this kind of new. Obviously, so I know the category Pirates guys, right? So they've been on the show, Chris, and all those guys. So the guys that wrote Play Bigger, right? So create a new category. So you've got this thing of autonomous business. Is it genuinely a new operating model, or is it really just a rebranding of outsourcing automation and systems thinking?
Yeah. So great question. And I think that what people miss about AI at large is that they look at it as next gen automation. And they miss the big unlock of AI, which is autonomy, actually, and intelligence combined together. And the difference between automation and autonomy is that automation is just trying to create workflows that are based on what you want them to do, and you want them just to repetitive automated workflows. You want them to repeat themselves just exactly how you want it to.
Yes.
And autonomy is really about giving them the freedom to make their decisions of their own, right? And it's just giving away some of the power,
so have some control, have some reasoning, and some approval levels. Yeah, okay.
Some reasoning and the capability of taking actions. It's got to be connected.
Yeah.
Right? Reasoning without actions, you cannot really make decisions.
Yeah.
And so this new model is not just a productivity model. It's a different mindset where human and AI collaborate together. And when you look at your org chart, then you take agents and humans together and you really think about how they should collaborate. And when you look at the processes, so how do you want to allocate the work around them, and what does it mean, like ownership in this world and accountability? So big part of it is that you got to make the decision in autonomous business that agents are not accountable. They're not the owners of that. The human is. So if only humans are accountable and the owners of specific goals and processes, so it means that these agents are working under them, quote unquote, from an organizational standpoint, because eventually it's their fault if something doesn't happen correctly. So it's really about a new paradigm of thinking about scaling a business with intelligence, both human intelligence and AI intelligence working together.
So just to jump on that, so that you probably worked in, I don't know if you've worked in bigger businesses like enterprises, but there's a concept called RACI, yeah, responsible, accountable, consulted, informed. So it sounds like that the agent is doing everything, could be doing the R, definitely responsible for the task, could be consulted, another agent could be consulted, because it may be like a specialization, could be informed, but actually the accountability still sits with the human. Is that fair, or is that
exactly? Yeah, and I think that that's a very accurate description of it. And I think that a lot of people ask me like, how do you measure the ROI of AI agents? And that's just misunderstanding the concept of how humans and AI should work together. If you get this, if you agree to the fact that humans are accountable, then the ROI should sit at the human level. And you just need to think about, okay, how does it move the needle for the human who is accountable for a specific task or a specific process or a specific goal or a specific metric? So if the human is accountable for X, then all of the other agents that are working underneath that human from an organizational standpoint, then they should just move the needle of what the human is in charge of, right? What the human is accountable for. And it just simplifies a lot of things when you look at it. So I do think that we're heading towards a new organizational structure, organizational culture, which includes both humans and AI. And I think that people are not aware how to do it. And I think part of the journey that I'm in and what's my zone of genius at the bigger scale of things is to lead this charge towards human AI collaboration in businesses. And I think more specifically, maybe B2B. Businesses that are selling to businesses, which is more my specialty. I'm not didn't grow any consumer product company. So right. I think that for businesses who are selling to businesses, the fundamentals are going to change with how you scale your business, and you need to change your mindset from scaling humans to scaling human and intelligence that are working together, human and AI that are collaborating.
I mean, yeah, and then a follow-up question from that is actually, so just looking at some of my notes, was when everything's automated, what will still differentiate one founder from another?
I love that question. So as I'm building this autonomous business playbook, I'm realizing more and more that building a business is becoming much similar to how we're building software products. Okay. And if you look at an R&D department, how they are building products, and a lot of the governance and regulations and things are actually embedded in the code itself, right? And they are able to coordinate a huge amount of tasks and inputs and outputs through just the code itself, right? And so when you look at a business that scales with intelligence, a lot of it could just be coordinated through that intelligence layer as well, right? But when you ask yourself, so how do you differentiate when AI becomes commoditized, becomes ubiquitous, right? And if you, again, go back to this analogy to building software products, so over the last decade, software has been commoditized, and it's just getting extremely easy to build software. And that question has been answered in that space. And what they tell you when you're building software products is that you just need to understand what you're extremely good at as a business that other businesses are not good at. What is your unique IP? It doesn't need to be rocket science IP, like you can protect it with a patent. It could just be like, what is knowledge, skill, capability,
the essence.
What is it that other businesses are doing less good as you, right? And that's a question that's much simpler to answer, right? And when you took that back to a business that scales with intelligence, where every business could scale with intelligence, you should ask yourselves what your humans are good at relatively to other businesses. And if you go back to the go-to-market example, and if you have talent that is good at cold calling, I know for a fact, I know thousands of businesses that are really bad at cold calling.
Zoom info. Hi Henry.
They're good at cold calling.
Hi Henry. Just if you're listening, watching this show, hi Henry. You got some great inbound guys.
Yeah, definitely. They're great at cold calling, and so
they're like Rottweilers. They grab hold of you like. Rawr, 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 rawr.
Yeah, definitely. And so I think that if you have talent that is, for example, good at cold calling, then humans should keep doing cold calls in your organization. You should use AI to amplify that and just create an unfair advantage that will just take that unfair advantage that you have right now and 100x it. If you're really good at LinkedIn social selling, and just like for Swan, like for example, right, we're really good at building LinkedIn presence and selling on LinkedIn our brand and our product. And so you should use AI to amplify that. You should never give that completely to the AI, because you will lose your unfair advantage. And so that's what we're doing at Swan. We're building AI agents around my LinkedIn game, so I can spend most of my time in creative and strategic thinking, and the agents do the execution. And so in a world where AI becomes commoditized and ubiquitous, you should look at your talent and ask yourself what your talent is good at.
So back to basics. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I suppose the danger with AI is, does it create like a generation of founders? And I've worked with a lot of founders across the time. The one I'm working on at the moment is my third Silicon Valley experience. So you can just imagine. That's why I actually had brown hair before I joined. Started working in Silicon Valley. But
I also had brown hair before my last startup.
So. But does the danger with this AI thing create a generation of founders who never learn the fundamentals?
I think that the fundamentals are gone, and I think that there's an opportunity to reinvent every process in a B2B environment, from building a product to selling it, to marketing it, to supporting it, and to building the internal talent structure. And the fundamentals are changing, and they're this is the most radical technological shift that humanity has ever experienced, maybe since the agriculture revolution.
Yeah.
And I'm confident that founders for the next generation have an advantage because they didn't learn the fundamentals, which are pulling back a lot of other people right now.
Oh, they don't have what you're saying is they don't have the baggage. That's the other side of it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I've got a really good one next. So what's the one thing that you still insist on doing yourself and refuse to automate?
Yeah, so I think that it all goes back to the philosophy of like that zone of genius, right? And I always strive to ask myself, what's my zone of genius? If it's outside of it, happy to automate it, right? If it's inside, I will never automate it. So for me, first and foremost, it's storytelling. My zone of genius is in storytelling, and specifically storytelling has channels, because you're telling a story in a specific channel. If it's like LinkedIn, if it's my newsletter, if it's on the website. So I will never give away control over the storytelling aspect of the company, which will always be mine. I'm very passionate about it. I think I'm good at it. And I think that's part of our unfair advantage. And I use AI to do it, but as a thought partner, as an amplifier, not to automate it.
But what you're saying is you love it and you do it. That's what you're saying. Yeah.
I love it and I'm good at it, and I'll continue doing it forever, I hope. And that is something that will never automate with AI. And it seems maybe obvious right now, but it wasn't obvious at the early days, because when we were, we just 3 people serving over 200 customers, we're exploding. It's so hard in terms of the scale. We don't have a second to breathe. Like every second that I spend is prioritizing one thing over 15 others. And I need to write a post on LinkedIn. Wouldn't it be easier to just give the AI, just write the post yourself? I don't have time for it, right? And I had dozens of moments like that where I felt like, this would be much easier to just give the AI to write the post right now, to do it for me, not together. And I didn't do it because I realized that this is something that I will never give up. And when the moment that I'll do it, we're going to lose our unfair advantage.
I mean, when did you form Swan? What was was it this year or last year?
We launched Swan at January this year.
Okay, so you're not even 12 months old. Okay, fantastic. So you'd be like the Lovable of GTM. Is that the idea? 200 million ARR in 12 months.
So Andrew, when I start my demos, people ask me after discovery, etc. Right? But when I started talking about what Swan is, so I tell that customers, they look at Swan and they call it lovable for GTM.
Oh, they do. They really do that.
Yeah, they really do that.
Wow.
But not from the growth trajectory, actually from the product perspective.
From the usability point of view. Yeah.
What we're building is similar to what Lovable did for software, where it democratized software building and just removed all the technical complexity that stands between builders and building software. Swan is an engineer that does the same for go-to-market professionals, just removes all the complexity that stands between their ideas and their execution. So you can just tell that engineer what you want to happen, if it's a process or just a one-off task, and that engineer can do it for you.
So I've got two more questions. And this is, I suppose, about based on where you are and where you've been. So what today, because obviously, you're less than 12 months old, right? What does Swan do brilliantly? What does Swan do really well? And what does it absolutely not do well yet?
Yeah, so what we did well is go to market. Okay, so we generated an amazing brand. No one knew about us 12 months ago.
Yep.
And now I think, millions of people know who Swan is, what Swan is. And we managed to turn that brand awareness into pipeline successfully, and that pipeline into product usage, and that product usage into revenue. And I think that is an amazing accomplishment for a 3-person team to do for an early stage startup. What we're not doing well enough is customer success, I would call it. Okay, so part of the model of the autonomous business model is not about, as you probably learned in this conversation, it's not about automating ourselves away from the customer. It's not about building walls, like AI walls between us and the customer. It's more about building bridges, AI bridges.
Yeah.
Right? And, when you're 3 people and you're serving hundreds of customers, you feel like you're dropping the ball a lot with these customers. And, we have an AI support that answers a lot of questions, etc. But in terms of time spent with these customers, I think that it's not enough, and we should, improve ourselves significantly. And we haven't really cracked the code there yet.
Well, I suppose that's where you make those decisions about what does the human do and what does the AI do, where your hiring plan is, I suppose, isn't it? So to scale, to go to the next level.
Yeah, definitely. We actually had so Swan, the engineer, the lovable for GTM. So you chat with it, etc. So you can ask it questions, and it has a knowledge base, so it can answer questions about how do you use it, what its constraints, capabilities, etc. If it doesn't know the answer, it will escalate it to us, basically.
Right.
So we work together. And one time we had an issue where someone asked Swan about our pricing. And Swan gave it the latest pricing, and then it said, but I remember that 2 weeks ago it was different. It was cheaper, which was true. And Swan said, you know what? You're absolutely right. I'll give you that discount. You can get the older price. Okay. And then the user was so happy to say, oh, wow, thank you, Swan. Thank you for the discount. Let's proceed to billing. And Swan doesn't have any billing permission, so it kind of escalated to the team. And we saw that conversation, and we kind of looked at ourselves and said, oh, man, unauthorized discount to users. What should we do here? And first of all, we've honored the discount just because we are not optimizing for short-term wins, and we really want to build longer relationships with the customer. But most importantly, we came to a realization that we're not going to improve Swan's capabilities of reasoning in this situation, not because we don't think it is competent enough, but because these are moments where we want to be more involved. These are, commercialized moments where we think that, when building our business, we think that humans should lead these conversations.
It's a moment of truth in that customer experience, isn't it? You've got to make sure you kind of get that right. So it sounds like, there's definitely, you get the kind of honesty card, I suppose, there, don't you? It's just building trust.
100%. Yeah, you want to build trust, and I think it's when you ask yourself what AI can automate, which is what I call the first wave thinking. First wave thinking of AI was what AI can automate. Okay, and it was a very shallow way of thinking about it. How should we use AI? And then you can ask, what AI could automate? Yeah, it could automate pricing conversations as well. Let's do that. But second wave thinking, it's okay. If you look at human AI collaboration, what should humans do here? What should AI do?
Yeah.
Here, right?
Yeah.
And if you look at success, then it's obvious that pricing, upsell, like someone wants to upgrade, of course, these are human-led conversations, and humans should be super focused on these conversations.
Well, I suppose that's what kind of I was just thinking about the kind of on the founder side was that's it really does, so there's obviously a lot of founders out there who've got like a product technical background, and they're not as au fait on the go-to-market side. So I suppose that's the boon for what you're offering to them, and you're kind of offering them to help to solve that problem in a smart way, because sometimes they don't understand that.
I think so. Yes, and just like Lovable, if you're going back to that analogy, just democratize software building for everyone, right? So I think that a lot of people have different challenges in building software. Some of them are technical, but don't know exactly what to build and don't have the product and user experience point of view. Other people are brilliant at user experience, but they're not technical, so they don't know how to build it, etc. And when you build that AI engineer, it can just mitigate all these gaps, right? And so we're building Swan with different types of point of views that it can help, remove all the technical complexity. If you don't know anything about HubSpot, it knows everything about HubSpot, and it has access to read and write into HubSpot for you. So you don't need to know how to manage a CRM to have a perfect CRM. But from the other side, if you don't know how to generate top of the funnel right now, so Swan has the fundamentals for that. Yeah, it can look at your HubSpot. It can look at, list of accounts. It can say, yeah, let's monitor for intent signals. I can put your script on the website, and you can understand who is visiting your website.
Yeah.
And even if they don't fill out a form, for example, you can build a system to reach out to them. So it's really about having an engineer that is also a consultant in that sense. It has these GTM best practices that together you can just remove all the technical complexities or the GTM gaps that you have, and you can really scale your go-to-market with intelligence, not with headcount.
Yeah, I mean what you're talking about there is system thinking and customer experience, isn't it? From initial contact all the way through to in life. So it's the whole thing, isn't it? Which my experience is some people just haven't got a clue, so they need some help. I'm just aware we're on time. I mean, are you okay for a few more minutes, or are you kind of got a hard stop?
Let me check just a second.
So I've just got two more questions for you if you've got some time, but if you haven't, we can wrap it up. Sounds like you need to go and see your son. Bang that drum.
That's okay. Yeah, I have a few more minutes.
Okay.
No worries at all.
So I've got a really interesting one here, which hopefully you've got an opinion on. So if you had to give founders advice for 2026 that would make most VCs uncomfortable, what would it be?
It's easy. So the more you don't care about VCs and the more you prove that you don't need them, the more they want you and they will put more money into your company. So VCs got you fooled that if you follow their playbook, you'll be able to raise more money faster. But that's not true. The best founders who raise the most money, who move the fastest, are founders who have huge conviction that no one else could disturb, no one else can move them.
Yeah.
And they just like bulls, they move forward. And VCs look at them and understand that, wow, this person, nothing could stop him, not even we, not even each VC, he will just conquer their vision. And what you need to hope for is that what you're betting on, your conviction, is just the right conviction and you're going through the right direction. No other VC will guide you through the right direction, that I can promise you.
So it changes the dynamic, yeah, ever so slightly. What is a piece of SaaS gospel that you think now is total nonsense?
I feel like Silicon Valley playbook was really all about product. It started with technology, then it moved to product. And I think that now it's in go-to-market.
Or distribution. Which is
I think
kind of similar. It's kind of similar, isn't it?
Yeah, go to market and just maybe distribution is like the top of the funnel, and then converting that distribution into pipeline is below that. I'm looking at both of these processes, and I think that what a lot of founders don't understand these days is that go to market innovation at early stage is more important. Not even early stage. Go to market innovation today is more important than product innovation. The reason why is that product innovation became table stakes. So it's like everyone is innovating on the product, and the problem is that you're building a cool product, then your competitor would say that they have the same features, and even if it would look like very soon that they're building the same features, that they have the same features, because building software is getting easier and easier and easier, and going to market is getting harder and harder and harder. And what I see a lot of, especially in Israel, that's because we're very like technological builders, and we're really focused on
very engineering mindset. Yeah,
exactly. And so I see a lot of founding teams very focused on just building the best product and best technology, and doesn't matter. They can have the best product in the world, but if no one listens to them and want to meet with them and want to use their product, then they will lose.
I'll send you a bank transfer after that, answering that question, because that's exactly what I think as well.
Amazing. So I'll send you the account details.
Because I think you're right. They've had these kind of like blinkers on, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
100%.
There's this thing called founder-led sales, but sometimes, as you know, sometimes it gets embraced, sometimes it doesn't get embraced. Anyway, my final question. When you look back 5 years from now, what do you hope people say Swan changed about how companies are built?
Yeah, so we wanted to set the bar for how humans should work with AI in a business environment. And I think that before Swan, there was a very shallow way of thinking about it. And people thought either AI is just next gen automation, or AI is going to replace my role. Okay, so you have like two camps, right? It's just a better automation, or
it's FUD.
SDRs.
Yeah.
Look, guys, we're going to have AI SDRs. Support reps. Oh, we're going to have AI support reps. That was like the before Swan thinking, if you would ask them regarding your question. And I think that what we're trying to show is, okay, how can we really work with this type of intelligence so that we can turn each person into their 100x version of themselves? That's what we really are aiming for. It's about, evolution of the employment within the B2B environment.
Yeah, because I spent a few months this year with Pavilion, and there was some very interesting sessions over the summer about, AI and humans, AI and SDRs, BDRs, AEs, the organization of the future. And there was like literally there'd be hundreds of people on these calls, and they were still they were like driving at 150 miles an hour like this. It was just like incredible. But obviously it's a complex problem. But all power to what you're doing, I think, Amos. I think that's what I'd say. So if anybody wants to know more about you, and obviously they obviously know you anyway, because you're like a billion people on LinkedIn. Who does not know Amos? But But if you want to get hold of you, what's the best way of finding more about what you're doing and get involved with what you're doing?
So if you haven't heard about me on LinkedIn, then you can just search me there, Amos Bar-Joseph. I write great content about human AI collaboration in the business environment. I have my own newsletter, which is called The Big Shift. It's in Beehive, so you can search for that, and maybe we can drop a link.
Yeah.
It's a behind the scenes view and how we're building our autonomous business. If you want to join the ride and kind of like see kind of like a weekly view of our wins and losses, then you can join that newsletter. And finally, if you had any questions,
so one of my very good friends, he ran a startup last year where actually they did live stand-ups. They streamed it live to Discord. You're not doing that yet.
No, not yet. No.
Okay.
And finally, if you had any questions to me during the session and you're really eager to ask, then I'm not available, but my digital clone is. I built Autonomous, which is my digital clone, who's trained on all of the content that I wrote, a lot of pillars that I believe in. And it's the closest thing to asking me a question. So we can drop the link. It's in the GPT store in ChatGPT, and you can just chat with it and ask it questions about how to turn your business into an autonomous business.
Oh, you actually built a GPT with it. So you haven't done, because I mean, Guy Kawasaki, Guy Kawasaki, the old, the Apple guy, yeah, in Hawaii.
Yeah.
So he uses Delphi.ai. I don't know if you looked at Delphi as well, but
yeah, I tried that, but I built my own. It wasn't good enough using Delphi, unfortunately.
Oh, really? It's interesting. Okay, cool. Lovely. Well, thank you for coming on today's show. We actually, I didn't tell you before we actually started, but I was thinking about live streaming this, but I thought, no, I'm going to record it and then we'll publish it. So I'll publish some snippets as we do this, and we'll drop the full episode very, very soon. So thank you very much.
Amazing.
Amos Bar-Joseph.
Thank you, Andrew, for having me.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for fitting me into your very busy schedule, and I hope the weather in Israel improves very soon.
Yeah, already started improving.
And if you just hold on a second, because I don't know if you've used Riverside, but we should have to sync it after we've finished the episode. So that was Andrew Turner, founder and host of the G&T Sessions podcast. And that was Amos Bar-Joseph, co-founder and CEO of Get Swan or Swan AI. Is that right?
Yeah, GetSwan.com. The company name is Swan AI.
Cool. Thank you very much, and see you soon. Ciao, ciao.